Hey y'all, I'm James Wright and welcome to my shop. We are back for another live event and this is going to be a lot of fun. This is the last episode in the joinery window. This is a project that uses 6 boards and 9 joints. It's a great way to learn joinery and kind of step your way through and realize that there isn't that much difficulty in it. It's just something that you've got to learn, and the only way to learn is to do. So this is a fun project, and if you want to see the actual designs for this, I have the SketchUp file on my website that you can download, so you can follow along with this. And all of the other joints in this, we have an entire video. You can watch those as well. Tonight we're going to be doing the last joint, which is this corner right here. It is going to be a mitered spline joint. So this is probably the most difficult one in all of them because we're going to have a really nice clean miter line on both of these pieces that have to come together. And then we're going to cut a spline in it and insert that spline in and finish this whole thing out. So it'll all be glued when it's done. And this is probably the one that will take the longest. So it should be kind of interesting. So let's start by actually taking this apart, which for the most part is not that difficult. But some of these joints are actually pretty darn tight. So we've got to do a little karate on it. And then we're going to, oh, that one's tight. Break that out. There we go. Come on, loose, loose, loose. Hey, there we go. So, let me make sure I'm cutting the right angles on this thing. Let's switch over to this so you can see a little bit closer here. There we go. And so in the past we have this one cut and we have this one cut, so we need to cut this at 45 degrees. Now that's a fairly easy thing to do, but I want to actually draw the line on here exactly where 45 degrees is. And rather than actually, let me grab square and knife, rather than actually putting this on here and drawing a line at 45 degrees, which I can do, and let me actually just go ahead and do that and show you what the difference is and why it doesn't matter that much, but it does to me. So, ooh, slid, oh no. So we're going to draw this line 45 degrees. Position that camera a little bit better for you. Oh no, I lost connection. Here, let's switch that back. There we go, sorry about that. So I have this line at exactly 45 degrees due to my square. But what I actually want to do is use the second board to find out what it is, because if these have slightly different thicknesses, the angle won't be exactly 45 degrees. So what I can do is put this on there and feel the gauge. And then I'll put my knife in here at the corner and make a nick. In this case, that nick lines up precisely with that line because I know these are the exact same thickness. I'm going to do the same thing on this side and show you how that line is then created. I'm going to put that on there and I'm going to create a nick here. Now that I have that nick there, then I can take my square and line it up from that nick over to the corner. And this may seem sloppy or feel sloppy because you're not working with tools, you're not working with measuring devices, but you're working on reality. And so now I have that lined up from that nick there to the corner. I can draw that exact same line here. And so that is the line that I need to cut straight down on both of these to get a miter joint. And so once those are cut, this should fit together and be exactly what we want it to be. Should being the operative word. So let's set this up with a bench hook and make our cut. Now, if you know anything about the Wood by Wright shop, the bench hook is like my arch nemesis. It is a useful tool, a really, really useful tool. But it is, I don't know, I've never warmed up to it. So a lot of times I like to do things freehand. But the bench hook does make some things easier. Oh no, I moved. I moved. Hopefully I won't move again. Although my kids are always asking me, when are we going to a new house?
Only when they're old enough to carry things around.
Yes. When you're old enough to help me move, then we'll move. Okay. I'm going to grab my carcass saw, which has a cross-cut tooth, which if it's a carcass saw, it has a cross-cut tooth. I'm going to put it in my 45 degree slot, and I'm not going to trust the 45 degree because there's a lot of slop in there that I can move around in that 45 degree, even though it's a fairly tight group. I'm going to follow my line. Actually, let me bring this over here so you can see what I'm talking about when I say I'm following my line. Close-up of my chest. Everybody likes the close-up of my chest.
An elbow.
Yeah. Oh no, I lost connection again. Oh, I gotta get a new cable here. Focus a little better. There we go.
Mm.
And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start just nicking the line on the far side here. Great comic. I love The Far Side. Wish he never stopped making that. And I'm going to follow the line all the way back until I have a nice curve started. And then I'm going to use the corner of the work to guide the saw down. Come on. Uh-oh, I jammed. I'm pushing too hard in the saw, putting too much force in the saw, and it'll jam up. I gotta let the saw do the cut. Relax the hand. And unfortunately, that cut veered ever so slightly back. Not a huge issue, but there'll be a slight gap in this corner. But, oh well, you live and you learn, and that's what shooting boards are for. One of the hard things about this particular joint is you can't remove too much. If you're working with a picture frame, you can size everything down just a little bit. You know, take another 32nd of an inch off. But if I take a 32nd of an inch off on this, I can't size out all the other joints to match it. So you have one shot at it, and if you mess it up, then, well, you messed it up, didn't you? Which is usually what I do. I'm pretty good at that. Start on the back side, work back across that line until I get to it. There, that was pretty. Hit that one dead on the line. So, there we go. Now, theoretically, these are exactly what they need to be, and everything is perfect, and I'm living in a dream world. Yeah, I am living in a dream world. And, as my wife would say, I'm a Barbie girl living in a Barbie world.
Oh, jeez, you did go there. I didn't think you would.
Let's grab a shooting board. Were you thinking it?
I was thinking it, but I didn't think you would actually say.
How do you know when you know your wife?
Well, I was thinking about it. We've been together for 16 years. So, like, half my life we've been together, which that isn't scary because it's by choice.
Yeah, it is half your life. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm going to find a curl because, let's use you instead. My shooting board's ever so slightly out of square, and I need to fix that. But that'll make a good YouTube video eventually. So I'm going to remedy that by shaving out just a hair. No, that's going to be too much. Let's do it by that. So what I do is on my shooting board, rather than having something at 45, I just use a speed square, put that on there, and that then becomes my angle that I can cut things off of. Works fairly well. Takes a little bit of a hand to maneuver, but it allows you a little bit of flexibility in adjusting things. Grab my low angle jack, and let's partay. Actually, I'm going to do it this way first. There we go. Let me switch over so you can see that a little bit better. Can I focus? There we are. What?
Duck says he's got that song stuck in his head again. I was waiting for somebody.
I love a sharp shooting board. Or a sharp plane. Just finished that up. Ooh, that's pretty. I like it. But let's see if I took off too much material. I may have taken too much material to that. So when I put these together, there may actually be a slight gap between them. But that's one of the fun parts of this project is you never know what you get. And it is a good training project. It doesn't matter how amazing you are with joinery. This will show that you dropped your shooting board on the floor. This will show your skill and quality. So let's actually go at putting this thing together. I'll give you a little bit higher shot here. Well, I put this together so you can kind of get a different view of that.
You've never looked better. No.
What's that?
Nothing.
Are you picking on me?
I am. I have.
Okay,
I have
now
to wake up.
today, because this is the last joint, we're using glue. There's no going back at this point. And I'm not looking for perfect glue joint, though I could work at it.
But what kind of glue?
This is Type Bond 2. For those of you who like to follow my glue escapades, it is my general go-to glue. It is good enough. It is more than good enough. And it is cheap enough because you can buy it by the gallon. It's a great wood glue. So I'm going to supply a little bit on both sides. And then I'm going to make sure I put it on the right way. Is it this way or this way? I don't remember. Let's figure this out. 7 goes that way. So this goes that way.
Guess you could just
start
always
putting this all together.
turn it.
What?
Never mind.
Leather-faced hammer. Final bits of joinery coming together here. Do the same thing on this one. Oops, got some wood curls in there. And this is a tight one here. Like that joint. That one came out happily. And then we need this one, which goes this way. So that's going to be a half lap. I'll wait until I get that one on there. Let's do this one next. Glue inside the mortise and on the tenon. Because in this case, as they slide past each other, they're always going to clean off a little bit of glue off of one another. So I always make sure to put it on both sides of this. Most joints, I don't always put it on both sides. Most joints, I don't always put. I guess I kind of mixed that one up. Then with that, make sure this is that way, that's that way. Slide this together. Now, I can slide this one on here. Again, glue in the mortise and on the tenon. And glue on
Okay,
here.
they're saying he moved the other camera to get a better angle, but he's not using. They're wondering if like an overhead camera.
I can turn on the overhead camera. Let me show you what this looks like. My overhead camera is pretty junky. Let me see, what angle am I giving here?
Yeah, I'm getting lots of can you switch cameras.
Yeah, because I have my overhead camera right here. I don't know if that's going to help you because it's kind of a crummy camera. I've got to spend the money and buy a good one. But and no, I can't get rid of the bars top and bottom because it's a cheapo knockoff.
Well, I didn't know if the side camera that you had.
I can give you the front-facing one, but it's so far away that you're not going to see anything.
Yeah.
Here, that's this one. Camera number 1. Hi there.
No, that's what you were on.
I was on that?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Is this one? I thought I
That's
was
what
on-
they're looking for.
Oh, I thought I was on that one. Sorry. That would help me to actually look up and see what number camera is on. Sorry about that. The fun of live. We were almost going to have a videographer here because Luke was here shooting some videos for August with me. And we actually got done earlier, and so there was no reason for him to hang around like 5 other hours to get this done. So, well, now, let's lock this all together. Squeeze that into place. Squeeze that down. Clamp all that down. Get some glue off there. Now the last one. Glue on the tenon. Glue on the tenon. Glue on the tenon.
You're getting cut off just a little bit.
Oh, the joinery?
Yeah.
And then I'm also going to put glue in the mortise. So when they slide in, you're not actually shaving it off one or the other. Oh, that's happiness. Now the moment of truth. When I drive this down, let me move that up so you can see. When I drive this down, let's see if this gap disappears and tightens up. Let me put some glue on there. And if I'm the world's most amazing joiner, cabinet maker, then there will be a perfectly good fit here. Chances of that happening are, well, it's not going to happen. It's passable. By George, that may... No, I don't even know if it's clampable. Nope, I got a good hunk of a gap on there. So let me show you my problem. And that's one of the fun things about this joint is... There you go, you can see the big gap that's on there. Now if I really clamp this down, I might be able to get rid of that. But we'll see. So the next thing I want to do is actually put a spline into this. So let me switch back to the other camera so you can see how I move things around in the shop. Because I'm going to be... Can you see me over here, babe?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm going to slide this down into here. And it's not going to work on that one. You guess it's right in between the two sizes I need. Oh no, look at that. It's going to work perfectly. So I can slide that into there and clamp this down. And we can have a spline in here. So we've done the first half, the miter joint. And if this was a picture frame is fairly easy to fudge one way and the other because you can always adjust its size a little bit. But in this case, you can't just adjust the size at all. So we've got to work with what we've got. So let us go back to 2 here and start setting up this joint. Now we've got a marking gauge and a chisel. Now this morning I was working with a project. If you look behind my wife on the wall, the Midwest Tool Collectors meet sign is up. And Luke and I...
Oh,
hey,
you can't really see it. Here, I'll get it off the wall.
Yeah, Luke and I were doing that, and that is a mitered spline joint. Not my best work, but it's okay. That'll be a video coming out in August. So I've had a little bit of experience with that, and the nice thing is, doing 4 of them today, this is a little bit easier, so I kind of, I'm ready for it. So I have this mortising gauge set up to the thickness of my chisel. And the thickness of my chisel is exactly the same thickness as the spline that I'm putting in there. It's a 1/4 inch. And so we're going to be putting a spline right through this. Now the idea is I want to actually chop down a 1/4 inch slot in here that this spline material will fit into. And this will provide a cross-grain gluing between these 2 pieces in the joint. So let us chop in. Before I do that, I need to actually lay it out. Now this is the side with the tape. It is my side that I'm measuring everything off of. So I'm going to put this on here. I'm going to have these 2 pins that are in, and I'm going to mark down. And then I'm going to mark down here. And so normally for a stop mark, I'll have a marking gauge. I'm going to pick a random stop distance of 1.25 inches. So let's cut down 1.25 inches. So I'm going to put a little nick here. And a little nick here. Now I wish mortising gauges had a mark that you could see, which I could use a pencil, but I hate working to pencil lines. And I think that if I were to use a pencil, then a lot of people would be like, oh, I should use a pencil in my shop. Well, no, don't use a pencil in your shop. So I've marked down both sides of the cut so I can chisel out the waste. But now I want to cut down on either side. To do that, I'm going to grab my dovetail saw. My Bearcat Sexy Dovetail Saw. Sorry, babe. I love my dovetail saw. And just like any other cut, we're going to start up here.
There's so many things to say.
And I'm going to cut down on the inside of the line. Now the nice thing about this joint is looking at it from the corner, I can see the line on my side of the board as well as the line on the other side of the board. So I can adjust both at the same time and follow that line right on down to the stop mark, which is kind of nice. I don't have to bend as far over the saw to see all the way down. There's one side. Let's do the other side. Ooh, way off. Clean that up. Found myself going off the line towards the inside, so what I do is back it up, and I kind of twist the saw to use the side of the teeth, and the side of the teeth will then push the line back to where it is. Rather than trying to correct the line further down and steer it back to where it should be, stop, go back, clean up the mess you made, and then you can continue on. I'm taking my time on this. There. Cut down to depth. Now we can remove the waste in between with a mallet and chisel to tighten this up so it doesn't move around much. Glue. And we can chop in here. I'm only going to go halfway. I don't want to chop into the other board. Come down a little bit. Chop it in. Down a little bit farther. Chop it in. And keep on going until I'm down at my depth mark. Clean out the majority of the waste. Try and get rid of all that spoo inside. I like to use the marking knife sometimes. And I got to go in a little deeper here. There we go. And now I've chopped out one side. We can come around and I'm going to chop towards myself, which I don't normally suggest you doing, but I have a camera on the other side, so I can't be on the other side, so I just have to be careful not to blow past or slice into my leg or
that escalated quickly.
cut up my thumb like I did earlier because I had a carving knife. I was carving a spoon, and the knife went wild and the spoon dropped to the floor and sliced right into my thumb. Oh well.
Made that sound too.
Yes, it did. It was so scary.
Apparently it wasn't bad enough that you told me about it.
I watched my life flash before my eyes. It was very boring.
So what chisel are you using?
I am using just a 1/4" bench chisel. This is actually a Harbor Freight special. The wooden handles you get from Harbor Freight, they're not half bad. For the price, they're fantastic. And they're my secondary set. They're my actual imperial measurement set. So this one is actually a 1/4". My other set is metric. So anytime I'm doing something that I need an actual size, I use my Harbor Freight ones. And because this is stock that I bought at exactly a 1/4" thick, I needed a 1/4" chisel, not an 8mm chisel. So removing most of the waste. I'm just going to use my marking knife to kind of pare out and clean out some of this junk. Because my gap is so wide here, I actually have to go in between the boards and clean out some junk there. And now let's see how this fits. It's probably not going to work because I normally need to clean them out a little bit, but okay, it's going to work perfectly. So there is our spline. And normally what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in there, I'm going to glue it in, and then later on I'm going to come with a saw and plane it off flush. But because of this joint and wanting to do everything now, I'm going to actually look, I might use some super glue on this just so I can do it all tonight. Let me see. How do I want to do that? You're out, you're out. I'm just looking at the joints and seeing if I need to tighten anything up or clamp anything. You're good. You're good. Nope, I'm going to glue it. I'm going to go ahead and glue it and plane it all off tonight. So normally I would use some wood glue here, set it aside, and then come back later and clean it off. But we've got time tonight, so I'm going to actually glue this. I'm going to use a combination of glues here, of super glues. I have a thin super glue. This sets fairly quickly, but it works its way into the wood. And then I have a thick super glue. This is a gel that works, well, more like a wood glue actually. And I'm going to quickly put this into the joint. I'm going to hammer this down into place. And then I'm going to put in thin glue in here and here, let that seep down in, hit it with some activator, and I'll be good to go. I'm telling you that ahead of time because I need to do this so fast that I may not be able to talk while doing it. So let's put in this thick glue here. Except for my tip is clogged. It's always clogged. Why is it always clogged? There we go. See if that fixed it. Come on. There we go. Gel's coming out. Gel's coming out.
All right, while you're working on that.
It's jamming up right now, of course.
Your chisel hold its edge pretty well?
Ask me that in a minute.
Okay, never mind. I try.
I'm working with super glue. I will get to that in a minute. There we go. Let's try this one. This is a little bit thinner. It is what they call thick. It's not quite a gel. It runs a bit more. So we got that in there. Let's jam this down into place quickly, quickly, quickly. And now let's use the thin gel. The thin glue. Ooh.
I'm surprised no one said anything about you gluing your fingers together yet.
Oh, someone just did.
It was me, not them.
Usually I glue my lips together, and I'm just going to let this run down in
I'm
there.
not going to say anything about that one.
And then I'm going to hit it with some activator. Call it a day. Yay! So we're going to let that set for about 30 seconds or so while I put these bottles away. And then we can actually finish this joinery. And that is the fun of super glue. And I never used to use super glue as a wood glue. I always thought it was kind of a gimmicky thing. But there are a few occasions where it is good. And due to the test that I most recently did, I am very happy with its performance. Though I am interested to see its long-term effects. We'll be seeing about that. What are you laughing about now?
Okay, so somehow we got on the topic of daughters and dating, and Tyler Woods said he had boys sign his shotgun shells before taking his daughter out. They knew the rules and promised to empty in their direction if they broke the rules.
Nice. I need to do that. I got a 7-year-old daughter that's already talking about getting married.
8.
8?
She's old now.
She's 8 already? Ugh. Okay, for cutting, I'm just going to try and cut off the majority of this. Freehand. But I already failed and started going into that. So let's try cutting off the majority of this freehand. No, let's cut down this first. Or let's do that. That works too. Yeah. Normally I would stop, and after this glue has set overnight, then I would actually turn the whole thing so I could go straight down. But as I'm working at it with this, I don't have an overnight to let it set. And so I don't want to move it from the clamp for fear that I'm going to bust something off. There you go. Now that we have that, we can plane it down smooth. So let's take this off. Oh, fart. It's not going to fit in those. Oh, well. Ah, there we go. Put it over here. Back this up so you guys can see. Make sure we're focused here. I put it in the far end of the vise so that I can actually clamp it in because it won't fit between my two screws. They're about an inch too close together.
Whoa, whoa.
Did something bump?
No, they, like 5 comments went through all at once. They all were typing.
And I have this plane set with a very, very light cut. And so normally I'm waiting until this is set overnight, and then I can plane off the finished product all the way across. In this case, I'm just going to do that. Rotate it 90 degrees. Do the same thing on this side. Let me zoom in and show you what this looks like, because I love seeing how this comes together. It's kind of a fun thing.
No, I can't see anything.
Thor, the god of thunder, is running up and down our floor if you can't hear him.
There you go.
Let me focus a little bit.
Ta-da.
There we go. So I love seeing how this cleans up that last pass or two when it just sharpens up. I'm taking off a really, really, really thin shaving, like 1/1000th or 1/1000th and a half. So it takes a few passes until we get down. So there, like that. And I got that really nice, clean joinery look. I love that look. I don't love that look, but oh well. That is the fun of this joinery project. So let's see, what else do I need to do? I need to put that screw in. And then I think that about does it. Oh, you probably didn't see what I was pointing at because I was so focused out. So the last thing I need to do is put this screw in. And so I need to grab the bit and the brace. Oh, and I need to put in the drawbar pin too. Nice, nice, we can do the drawbar. I don't get to do drawbars as often as I like. I really, really enjoy doing drawbars. But today's the day, apparently. So, to do this, I'm actually going to clamp this in here. So these can actually squeeze together and become perfectly parallel. And I'm going to turn... Actually, I don't know if I can shoot it with this camera. Let me see. Let me show you guys. You'll see some of it. Would be nice to have a camera person running this. So then we can put this screw in to the pocket hole slot, drive it in place. Nice and tight. You have to be careful when driving screws with a bit and brace. These have an incredible amount of torque, far more torque than you expect, and in many cases far more torque than you would ever want to put on a battery-powered drill. They're a really, really, really powerful tool. And then the drawbar pin. So for the drawbar pin, I'm going to set that in here. We're going to glue up the mortise. And I'm going to let all that glue drip down onto the ground. Put some on the pin as well. Make a smeary mess. And drive that in. There we go. So then, this one I am going to let sit and glue overnight. And then I just come back with a flush cut saw, cut that off, and then do my final smoothing. Run a plane all the way around it and see how smooth and clean it is. But other than that, the project is done. And so you can go over the project now and actually take a look at it and see how tight are your different joints. And as all the imperfections add up, this joint will become your defining moment, making this corner match exactly. And there's a little bit of a gap in there because all of these joints are ever so slightly off. And if everything in this is perfect, then there won't be any gap in this at all. But you have no say over that gap because of the way everything else is held together. So let's go over some of these joints that I've got. Looking at it from the faces, that's what matters. This half flap, I'm really happy. There's a bit of a gap here. Not bad though, that would be perfectly acceptable because once you plane it down, that would disappear. The dovetail, I'm really happy with. That came out perfectly. Let's see, there's a bit of a gap here on the, what one is that one? That one's the mortise and tenon. So the shoulder on this didn't line up, so that was off a little bit. There's a bit of a space here on the front. The back is, no, the back's about the same. Let's see, the pocket hole, I really like the pocket hole. That's a nice clean joint on both sides. The half lap, good and clean all the way around. The corner half lap with a bit of a gap, but not bad. I'd probably just throw a clamp on and squeeze this up a little bit, and that should clean it up pretty well. All in all, I'm fairly well happy with it, except for how this came out. that's just the fun of this. You never know what it's going to be until you actually get there. So there is the joinery window. Hope you guys have liked this this process as much as I have. I'm actually going to put 2 clamps on this so that I can take it apart. Not take it apart, but actually have it. Because it's not a final project until it can glue up overnight. So what were some of the questions, babe?
So one of the most recent questions Brian and others had kind of alluded to is, could you fill the gap with CA glue and sawdust?
You can. It's cheating. No, I am not a fan of glue and sawdust because a gap filled with glue and sawdust looks like it's a gap filled with glue and sawdust. It's kind of like drawing a big, neon sign saying I messed up, and it's a glaring thing. It's not a good wood filler for me.
Excuse me.
For me, I'd actually rather use. Actually, let me show you the wood glue, the filler that I use when I actually want to fill some. 3M stainable wood glue. Comes in this little tube. I really like this stuff for oak or any similar color. Well, I mean, they have it in any color you can want. But when you fill a hole with it, it looks like wood glue. It looks like wood. It doesn't look like glue. So if I'm going to fill a gap, I'm going to use that instead of a sawdust. I'm not a huge fan of that look. But that's a personal preference. So, yeah. What else we got?
All right, hang on. I got to scroll back up for a second.
Yeah, someone asked about holding their edge. With the my 2 chisel sets are, my main set is a set that you can buy at Aldi, and this sale should be coming up anytime soon. They sell them once a year. They used to sell them around Father's Day, but they changed it up to sometime in August last year. And you can buy a set of 4 of these for $7.99 at Aldi, the grocery store. My secondary set is this set from Harbor Freight with the wooden handles. And a lot of people are like, ooh, Harbor Freight, that can't be great steel. Well, in honesty, until you've been using a chisel for a year or more, you will not notice the difference in how long this chisel lasts as opposed to a $100 chisel with the greatest honing and setup that you can ever possibly buy. And until you've worked with it, you won't notice the difference. Is it the best quality steel? No. But for $10 and 6 chisels, you can't beat it. The handles are really junky and horrible, and I'm going to be showing a video soon about how to rehandle them. The same thing with the Aldi chisels. I really don't like the handles. If you want to go buy a set of chisels, I usually tell most people, don't care about the steel. The steel is superfluous. Until you become a really good woodworker or have been working with it for a while, you won't notice the difference. So go find a chisel that you like the handle, and then make a handle for it and get a good set. Once you've been woodworking for a long time and you want to get that really good steel that you can now tell the difference in, then you're going to want to spend the money and you're going to want to go buy a Lee Nielsen or something like that. But until then, I really wouldn't spend the money on anything more than a Nerix because it's just, you won't notice the difference. But yeah. What else we got?
All right, hang on.
But that question is a great way to start an argument with any hand tool woodworker.
Oh, they were kind of already doing the whole little.
Everyone's got their personal preference.
Hang on. There was one earlier.
Love this tool wall because at any time I can clean my shop. I can just turn around and my feet don't move at all, and every tool is within reach. And everything locks away, and before you know it, my bench is clean.
Oh, Stephanie Mason asked, what TPI is the tenon saw you're using?
My tenon saw? My tenon saw, I think, is, 12? I think my tenon saw is 12. My carcass saw, the other one I was using, I think that's 14. Yep, 14 TPI. My tenon, no, it's 9. My tenon saw is 9.
And then Donnie Davis asked, couldn't you saw through the miter joint and plug it to fill the gap before doing the spline?
Saw through the miter joint. So I think you're saying that I can take the miter joint and cut down this way and then fill it with something. You could. I can't close it up because all this other joinery is there stopping it. And that's what makes this tricky, is because this joint, even if you cut absolute perfect 45s, if all of this is stopping this joint from coming together, then it will never close up. And so my 45s are really nice. They're actually really good and tight. I don't have any problem with that. But the rest of the joinery is ever so slightly off, making this whole square a little bigger. So that's the way it is. Either what's going to happen is your joinery is all too small, and you were too conservative, and you were too liberal in your cutting, and this joint will close up, but then you have gaps on everything else. Or you were like I was and too conservative, and you cut everything just a hair too big, and that spread everything a little larger so that everything else looks tight, but this joint shows up. And so that's one of the fun things about this project is you never know until you actually get that last piece in how everything turns out. It shows off the faults. You've read the book, The Faults in Our Stars? Well, it's the faults in our windows.
All right, hang on. There were a lot of questions when I was catching up. Let's see. What joint could replace the pocket hole? W. Cooper asks.
Anything you want. Let's see. What joint haven't I done that would be fun in the pocket the pocket hole slot? You could do. I'm sure there's lots out there I wouldn't even think of. You could do a. Oh, you could do a wedged tenon. So you'd have a tenon that would come up through. It's a through tenon, and you would actually cut the mortise like a fantail. And so when the tenon comes up, you drive a wedge down through the middle of the tenon that spreads it apart and that locks it into the place. That'd be a fun one to do. There's lots of other joints out there. But I like using the pocket hole because a lot of people kind of go poo-poo to the pocket hole. But it's actually a very good, useful joinery joint. You've got to do it in certain locations. It's not like the overall joinery joint. You can do everything like a lot of DIY people like to do it. But it is a good joint, especially for like a skirt to a tabletop. Very valuable and very useful and lifetime lasting.
All right, and then Tyler Woods asks, could you cut the joint and insert an inlay?
Sure, you could do that. If I were doing something in a picture frame, the nice thing about the picture frame is if you cut one board a little shorter, then you can cut the other opposite parallel to it. You can cut that one a little shorter and make everything work up great. You just can't do that on this. And this project is all about showing off your faults as opposed to hiding them. But yeah, an inlay would make it look really cool, especially if you did an inlay in all four corners of it. Yeah.
All right, let's see. Brad Lobregt? I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Says, what lie do you tell your wife when you slip a new tool into the shop?
It followed me home, babe. Can I keep it?
Lie? You come in the house and go, look what I got.
Yeah.
There's no lying. It's all giddiness.
She knows whenever I leave, there's like a 50-50 chance some tool's following me home. And if I go to anything that has the name of Midwest Tool Collectors Association, my shop doubles in size.
Yeah. Pretty much. Let's see. Oh, I just had a question. Oh, Sandy Masquith asked, do you sharpen your marking knife?
Yes. I actually have a video on doing that. So if you search for Wood by Wright, how to sharpen a marking knife, you'll find it top of the list. Yeah, if any of you are ever wondering, has he ever done a video on that? Google's really good at it. If you just search for Wood by Wright, title of anything you're looking for, and you'll probably come across the video I've done on it. But yes, I sharpen it every 6 months or so.
All right. Let's see. Daddy Warcrimes asks, I recently picked up a number 13 circular plane. Do you know any good resources for how to use them?
A compass plane. I've got 2 of them in stock right now, and I want to do a video on how to use a compass plane. And that may actually end up being Thursday's video. I'm still thinking about it. I've got to do a little work on my other one to actually get that up and running, but it would be a very fun one. So stay tuned. The thing is you have to learn how to set them up. You have to think about setting them up just like you'd set up any other plane. But then every time you change the angle, you have to change ever so slightly in a few things. It's not that difficult once you understand what's going on with it. But you want to set it to a radius that is ever so slightly larger than the final radius you want. And then trust the plane to tell you when you hit that radius. And then when you're close to that radius, then tighten it up just a hair more to get to that radius you're looking for and just finish it off. So hopefully we'll be doing a video on that. The only problem with it is if you're cutting cross grain, so you're cutting downhill into the cross grain, uphill through the cross grain, you actually want to plane everything down one side and then turn the plane around and plane everything the other way. That way you're always going with the grain. If you try and go down one side, up through the other, you're going to get a nice clean cut on this side, and this side you're going to get all this tear out. So you have to kind of think about that. But yeah, I might be doing that for Thursday's video. We'll see.
All right, let's see. Jimbo L says, what is the thinnest spline you could use to be structurally sound? Could you use a saw kerf and be safe?
Sure. It depends more on the wood you're putting in there. If you're going to be using something like pine, you're probably not going to, it's not going to be structurally strong enough to pound it down into that slot. But yes, I have done that before. I've cut Paduke at the thickness of my saw plate. I've done it with maple. Works great. You just have to plane wood down to that thickness. I tend to like 1/4 inch stock because I usually have a bunch of it on hand, and it works fairly well. But yeah, thinner is fine, and for the most part, just as strong. Yes, technically it's weaker, but I mean, usually it's a picture frame. You're not going to be putting much force on it, so it's more than it needs. But yeah, it would work well.
So Duck says, how many tools does James have now?
What I have on the wall is probably half of my tool collection, but it's what I use most of the time. The other half is underneath my bench waiting to be restored, or in the garage, or somewhere else.
All right, so apparently the big question, though, from Richard Wright and others is, what's the gray switch on the tool wall for?
The gray switch?
Turn around. I'm thinking with the big
Oh,
red
the
button.
pickle! The pickle, yes. See if I can pull it out. This is what is called a control pickle. And this is a throwback to my theater days. My master's is in technical theater, and we did a lot of automation of turntables and other cool things and special effects that would happen on stage. And this is a pickle that I made. And so you'd have a control wire coming out of Cat 6, industrial Cat 6. It's because it's not Cat 6 once it does that. I don't remember what they call it. But it's an 8-line quad twisted core cable. And so I would have a control on here, so I could, this one was set up to run a turntable, so this would be forward, and the turntable would run itself, and then it had a VFD to ramp up, ramp down, and it had a control board, so it would sense when to start and when to stop. This one would be reverse emergency switch, and then I would have the on-off for the motor control. And so I'd have all these things in here, but I've rewired this several times for several other things. I keep it in the shop because it's just a reminder of my theater history and a lot of fun. So yes, I do get a lot of questions about it. It doesn't run anything cool in here. It's just a prop.
We should make it do something.
I should. I want to do something in here be fun because I have all this automation experience. I just don't have anything other than the Google Home and smart home stuff.
Well, it doesn't fit in a hand tool wood shop now.
Yeah. I can't do it with my voice. I got to do it with a button. What else we got?
I think we got caught up.
Okay. I think we're getting close to time. So, yeah, this has been a lot of fun. I'm not sure what we're going to do next week. I have a couple ideas on mine, but I think we're actually going to start working on a project, possibly a stool, and break it up into a few components so that we can do it in between.
Are you going to do where you give them a supply list? Because that was the suggestion before.
I would like to do that. I might hold off and do that in a couple weeks and actually put it all together so I can do that and give you guys a supply list, and it'll be kind of fun and build the whole thing basically live, or at least each step at a time. Yeah. The other project we might be doing soon is working with my wife, but we won't have anyone to manage the chat, although that might turn into a video series itself and actually teach someone from the beginning. This is a saw, and how to use it. So that'd be kind of fun. If any of you have any suggestions or ideas, I would love to hear them. I'm looking for projects that are containable. In other words, I can take it step by step and do a step in like half an hour, which with videoing and talking ends up taking a full hour. And so that's why the joinery window worked out really well, being step by step, because each of those joints are 15 to 20 minutes apiece. So yeah, I'd love to hear your ideas. Any last
Tyler
minute things?
Woods, don't forget to hit the like button on your way out.
Yes.
That should be your
I should
like
do
button.
that. Like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to join Patreon, flip the switch.
And then 12 of a 9 said, "Hey Google, sharpen my chisel."
Yeah. I was going to see if it responded to you. It didn't. Okay.
Oh, your phone.
Oh, it did?
It did.
Cool. Any last minute questions?
Nope, I don't
Cool.
think so. The
Well,
rocking chair.
Yeah, no, I want to do a rocking chair, but I don't think that would be a good live video. There's just so many repeated components that it would be a little bit more of a challenge for the live thing. But I don't know, maybe. Also thought about doing a small set of shelves, kind of like Shannon Rogers did with the hand tool school a while ago. But yeah, a shoe rack. I might actually build a shoe rack because I need a shoe rack. To
Well,
store
we've
all
only
my
been
shoes.
talking about that for 2 years now.
What?
You making a shoe rack.
No, like one for my bedroom, not like the shoe bench one.
I still can't get it, folks.
I love you, babe.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, thank you all for watching. This has been a lot of fun. And if you have any questions, thoughts, ideas, feel free to send me an email or contact me some other way. That's about it for today. Until next time, have a wonderful day.
Bye. Where's my button?
I'm holding still.